not every job is a technical job out of the gate. We have people working help desk so they can end up in IT or in other aspects of the business. So happy to have that conversation. But Jamie is one of our great success stories, so I'll turn this over to Jamie and Edie, and want to welcome and thank all four of you, especially Brad. Alex's flight was late. Brad's leaving tomorrow and is trying to pack a bunch in, so it was a big ask, a big curveball, and thanks for being so generous with your time on a day like this one. So thank you, everybody. Please welcome them.
I got a microphone.
Yeah. All mic'd up with a lab. Very.
So as we get started, we want to just give a little brief introduction of each gentleman up here. We're going to start with Craig Cunningham. Many of you may already know him, but Craig is a notable strategist and technologist. He excels in aligning business with technical strategies. He currently serves as the Chief Technology Officer for Rav Attack. Craig is steering the organization toward digital transformation and infrastructure modernization. Now, he comes with a wealth of experience and leadership roles. Notably, he was with IBM for over 35 years. He contributed to business and technology consulting, software sales, deployment. He's an expert at building top-performing tech support and specialty ranges from solution architect, data analytics, UX design, and cloud services. He is a recognized leader in the nonprofit sector. He's a board member of the Emerald Symphony, where he guides the organization towards sustainable future. And as a consulting CIO of Oglala Life, he applies his expertise to sustainable water utilization and farming practices. Now, Craig is a contributing member to the arts at WTAMU, supporting educational initiatives within the arts and humanities. Craig's vast experience and expertise make him an essential voice on technology, innovation, and AI topics. His work demonstrates a commitment to technical excellence and the broader societal impact of technology. Wow, what a resume, Craig. Welcome to AC and the IO.
Thank you.
Jamie.
Hi. Rich Guyon is an accomplished technology leader serving as the Assistant City Manager and Chief Information Officer for the City of Amarillo, a position he has held for over 7 years. In this role, Rich is responsible for overseeing the city's technological infrastructure and aligning it with the strategic goals of the city government. Before joining the City of Amarillo, Rich had a successful career in the private sector where he held leadership roles at renowned technology companies. He served as the Vice President of Systems Engineering for the Americas at Palo Alto Networks, a cybersecurity company where he worked for nearly 2 years. Before that, he spent 7 years at F5 Networks, a global company specializing in application services and application delivery networking. Rich progressed through various roles at F5 Networks, eventually serving as the Vice President of Worldwide Field Systems Engineering. Earlier in his career, Rich was the Director of Network Infrastructure at GameStop and the Manager of Network Engineering at Radio Shack Corp. These experiences have given him a well-rounded perspective on both public and private sector information systems. Rich's comprehensive background, including his work in both public sector and leading technology firms, provides him with a unique perspective on the intersection of technology, infrastructure, and community needs.
Welcome. And Michael Keogh is next. He is the Chief Technology Officer for Region 16 Education Service Center. He is vital in facilitating the effective use of technology within education, with a focus on delivering equity and educational opportunities for all students in the Panhandle of Texas. Keogh's goal is to empower school districts to use technology in new and innovative ways. Great place to be these last couple of days. Before his current role, Michael served as the CTO for the Canyon Independent School District while he worked to address technology needs at the administrative and school levels. Before working at Canyon, he was the Director of Technology with Dumas ISD. In these roles, he led strategic, operational, and tactical planning for the development, evaluation, and coordination of information and technology systems, security systems, and research and assessment systems. Michael's extensive experience in various tech roles in the educational sector It positions him well to discuss the effective use of technology in learning environments and his passion for educational equity and opportunities for undoubtedly provide a valuable perspective in this panel discussion. Thank you for leading the way for our K through 12 students.
Panel Brad Swadling. With a career spanning nearly 2 decades, Brad has made significant strides in the realm of technology and operations. He currently serves as the Executive Vice President of Technology and Chief Operating Officer at BOC Bank, where he has been instrumental in leading transformational technology projects. Brad's journey began in the energy sector, where he honed his skills in systems and application development. His passion for delivering highly usable technology to customers and organizations has been a driving force throughout his career. From small custom applications to large enterprise systems, Brad's expertise is vast and varied, encompassing roles such as software engineer, project manager, product owner, and portfolio manager. A strong advocate of agile and lean processes, Brad has consistently aimed to optimize software development and achieving operational efficiencies. His academic achievements are equally impressive. A graduate of Western Michigan University with a bachelor's degree in business administration, Brad holds numerous professional certifications and is currently furthering his education with a Master of Science in Finance and at West Texas and A&M University. Please join me in welcoming Brad and all of our technology leaders to our AI Work Summit panel.
Okay, now Jamie and I've got some pretty tough questions here, so who's ready? Well, Brad, let me tell you, you're first up. Okay, in your role with BOC Bank, can you elaborate how AI is transforming your banking operation, and what role do you foresee for generative AI in enhancing banking services?
Okay, let me talk about, so the first one is how we're currently using it. So we're a small bank and we want to stay small for operational efficiencies and additional reasons. So we've had taken on AI early just as a personal assistant to make ourselves more productive. All of our developers have installed different code assistants. So we're unique in banking in that we own our own software, our own bank systems. We don't buy from somebody else. So we actually employ a lot of coders. And so there's been a lot of innovation in the last few years, and very, very recently with Microsoft launched Copilot. So we're in the process of using that, which is essentially using some of the ChatGPT, OpenAI tools built in, and you basically can ask it, like, how do I do this? And it writes the code for you. So, they taught all this good stuff to Jamie, and now he just uses an AI tool to do his work. So, and then our regular staff, I mean, it's super useful for compliance purposes. We don't have a full-time compliance person on our staff. We instead kind of filter that out to multiple roles, and they're able to just ask the question. Banking regulation doesn't change a whole lot. We have laws from 1960 that still rule how we have to do our operations. So the 2021 restriction hasn't harmed us there. So we can ask, how do you, talk about Reg CC and how it applies to a certain situation. And so that's been super useful and saves us from having to, work with a consultant or check with a regulator. And then in terms of how we see generative AI potentially being used, so most people here have probably heard of the bank failures that happened earlier this year. One of the things that's challenging at a bank to do is financial forecasting and stress testing. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to be able to filter in simulations of what happens if rates do this in this scenario, and what happens if this happens. And potentially those bank failures could have been prevented with this type of technology being employed, because creating those models yourself right now is challenging, and so you pick and choose which ones you think are most likely. And the situation that happened most recently with rate increases happening so rapidly isn't one that was foreseen and planned for by those banks. I also think risk assessments can, there's an opportunity there for assessing risk, monitoring, loans that are in progress, looking at various customer risk and assessing that. Drafting loan docs, I mean, it's a miserable task, and we have to pay a lot of lawyers to do that for us. They're pretty much the same every time, so you can train a model and definitely use it to help out with document creation. And last, and I think maybe most interesting, is personalized service. So making banking services and financial services more available to people that can't afford a financial advisor, or just are uncomfortable walking up and sharing personal financial information. So if you could use an AI assistant instead to do that, I think that open up financial inclusion opportunities for that type of thing. And I have a lot more I keep on going, but I know I was supposed to stay to 60 seconds, and I think that was 5 minutes. So
Good job. Jamie, take it away.
Michael, the next question's for you. In your view, what is the potential impact of AI on educators and teaching methods in the region?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a massive impact. So we're at a place right now where, me being a digital native, I've never known a time where I didn't have a computer. There's people in this room that didn't know a time that they didn't have a cell phone. We're educating students right now that will literally not know a job market that didn't involve AI in some capacity. The way we engage that now is going to dramatically affect the students in the future, and how we adjust our pedagogy, our teaching methods, everything that we do to help instruct those kids and prepare them for that job market is going to dramatically impact not only what their future looks like, but what our industry looks like, even what our nation looks like. So it is going to dramatically adjust how we do education, how we deliver that instruction. But I think it's also going to impact, we talked about equity. Equity is a huge issue in multiple facets. There's a lot of ways that equity can be addressed through AI if it's handled correctly and if teachers can embrace it appropriately.
Indeed. Okay, Rich, you're up. As we move towards more digital cities, what implications do you foresee for the city's workforce and businesses across these various sectors?
It's going to be huge. I think we're headed toward fundamental societal change, the way we do work, the way we live. To Michael's point, we're going to have a generation that didn't exist before AI. I think it impacts us on all levels. As a government, it affects us internally, how we do work. It also affects us externally, and one of the things that we're puzzling through now is change brings opportunity as well. The strategy that we're trying to approach is around workforce development, because not every community is going to adapt to this. Most communities are going to be behind the curve. So there's an opportunity for Amarillo to take that Coeur d'Alene strategy and get ahead of it with our students and create workforce that's very appealing to this new market. That's a huge focus for us, is driving that. It's going to impact every sector of business. It just is. It already is at the city. Well, we're already seeing efficiencies where we're able to take, as I said earlier, existing resources and retask them because we're doing the job we used to do so much more efficiently. And I think to Todd's point yesterday, we're trying to be very mindful of that. As we see the technology developing, we're trying to think through next year and the next 5 years, what happens when digital human comes online and I don't need 45 to 311 call takers. We have to think about those things now so that we're preparing those positions to do something new. And I think that affects not just the city, but businesses across the region, is kind of future-proofing the fluidity of the workforce.
We must be ready for change.
Exactly.
Craig,
Yes.
considering the crucial role of data in agriculture, how is machine learning aiding in making the agri-sector more productive and sustainable?
Well, thank you for that question. My resume is pretty long, I guess. I've been in the ag tech sector for about 5 years now. One of the first things you'll realize when you get into that sector, and Matt can tell you this, is that there's lots and lots and lots of data in ag. I mean, it's been it's been an issue from the very beginning, I think, because ag actually turns out to be a really large domain. At the same time, there's a lot of high-risk decisions that have to be made every day, whether it's about today's crop or about planning for next year's. And the challenge is, how do you make any sense out of the data we've got to be able to do better decisions? So that's where we've been applying machine learning, and it's a broad subject, but I'll relate some of the use cases that we do in the production side. The businesses that I work with have done a lot of research and technology and in-field sensor technology and IoT kinds of things. And we combine lots of data sets, weather and all, a lot of environmentals, a lot of test analyses from the field. And we use machine learning to do model predictions about things that we haven't been able to deal with very well in the past. So that includes things like yield prediction. How do you figure out how much yield you're going to make in next season thing? We've got models that are helping us to reach that. Things like pest and disease. How do we detect that there is an infestation coming? And we're beginning to derive models that are getting pretty good at that. Interestingly, and it was mentioned, Matt mentioned it a minute ago, was water management. And it's a key one. It impacts all of us, and yet it's key to the production quality of ag in this area. And so we have models that will allow us to to take metrics from the instruments in the field, to take readings from remote sensors, to take information from the environment and from weather and combine those together and do predictive models about water consumption and predict what a crop is going to need based on what's in the soil right now next week, to make sure that it's able to produce the vegetation it needs to do and to be successful. And then we have an interesting one that we're working on right now, which are some models that we've just finished. And we have instruments that can now detect or measure the amount of nutrients in the soil, things like fertilizer kinds of things, right? Phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen. And we can take that, combine it with models of the plant growth, and then we can tell in real time what the plant needs are, whether the plant's about to go into stress, and how much nutrient we might need to add to that field to make it productive, to make sure that that plant is optimized as much as it can. That's a big deal when you think about the economics of fertilizer today and what that means in terms of managing your field production. So I've spoken probably 2 minutes, I'm guessing, but that should cover that topic.
Great information. So Rich, you brought up how the work that we're doing today will be different in the years to come. So we're going to throw this out to the group, whoever wants to chime in. How do you foresee AI potentially disrupting existing jobs, you already touched on that, in your particular sector, and how can we best prepare the regional workforce for the changes that are coming?
Me or anyone? Oh, gosh. I'd say you'll take it.
I'll go. So in banking specifically, I think one area of that, well, first of all, embrace it. Like I already kind of gave examples of how our employees are using it. I mean, it didn't displace any of them. AI is not laying off any of our workers, just making us more productive and focused on less repetitive tasks. You can automate those. I also think that I never use one of these, but they're out there. Maybe some of you have. Walk in and you have a virtual teller. So the teller is usually the entry-level job into any bank. That's where most people start. They work their way up to other roles. But that virtual teller, I think, can be expanded and made available so you don't have to go to the bank or branch or an ATM to access them. You can access them on your phone. And so you get rid of having to navigate bad bank software. Not ours, but other banks with their bad bank software, and instead you could ask those questions of the teller that you would normally if you were in person. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and being involved and helping implement those things is the thing that the workforce can do. So like I said, embrace it, look how you can do your job better, and look how you can, some of those entry level roles, how can we replace those? And then if everybody gets to it, I guess the challenge would be to how do you then introduce people into your operation then? So leaders, managers, owners of banks will have to start considering that if the teller role were to disappear, what is the new avenue in to get started?
I loved the point you made about opportunity. It's an opportunity for all of us.
I get a lot of questions about this exact question from teachers, community members. I even have friends that talk to me because they know I'm involved in AI and just wondering, am I going to lose my job, or the AI is the devil, all these different things. And the thing is, our job's going to go away. Yeah, probably. Our job's going to change, absolutely. But this isn't the first time this has happened. I mean, if it wasn't, we'd be still manufacturing wagon wheels and other types of ancient technologies. It happened with the influx of computers, and before that, manufacturing. The cell phone changed the market. When we started introducing iPads, Chromebooks, one-to-one devices, student-led leadership tech groups. So it's technology. It changes as time goes on. So I think as humans, we adapt and we modify based on those things. And ideally, these technologies make our lives easier. And not only are they changing the jobs, but they're creating new opportunities for new employment opportunities and new ways of being innovative in your community. So I don't think it's something to fear for anybody to look at and say, oh, AI is going to take my job. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's going to make life easier. I can tell you I've saved at least 40% of my time in my role at Region 16 just because I use AI, whether it be generating automated systems or whether it be having it develop stuff that would take me 3-4 hours to develop. So that's areas of my job that are gone now. But I'm filling that with other things that are helping me to be more innovative and therefore creating a new job in my role.
Well, I think to Todd's point, the durable skills are becoming more important. I mean, that's really what it's amplifying, because the fundamental task, to your point, I have so much of my day is now automated that I'm not wasting time on that, and I'm able to focus on the relationships that I build with my direct reports and those durable things. The real challenge for me is I'm a workaholic, so when it frees up 30% of my time, I can just do 30% more, and it is that mindfulness on use time in a more durable way. I'm an guy, so he asked yesterday, "Are you a zealot? Are you?" I'm never. I'm an equator guy. AI is like every other very powerful tool. It's like nuclear energy. On one extreme, you have unlimited clean energy through fusion, right? And on the other, you have total destruction. So, yeah, it's a powerful tool, and as long as you're mindful in the way that you use it, I think it can have an impact on your business. But you also have to think about the flip side of that. We're doing a lot of discussion internally. Social media was really our first encounter with AI. It was keeping your attention. It was the attention economy. AI is going to be the intimacy economy, and I'm working with 40 other cities around the globe to get an understanding of what does that mean, right? What does that mean in society? What does it mean for us as business? Already there's 2,000 new apps that came out this month. Well, where's that data going? Starting to put being balanced in our approach. How do we embrace the positive and hedge the negative?
It's a great conversation, really, to prepare our community and our region for the future. Craig, you want to add something?
I'll chime in just real quick, because in ag, our problem is really a labor shortage issue. And just about everything we do that I'm doing in my teams is trying to address that particular need. Now, what we're going to need is the ability to bring skilled resources to the table, to have the ability to work with the AI, to work with robotics, to understand programming, those kinds of skills, and human skills, and also domain level skills, which are important, are probably critical. We want to enable the new generation, new crop, and enable people also in rural areas with access to technology and with access to digital online learning and all of the opportunities that we can, because those are the people who will be hopefully filling those skilled roles in the future as we roll this out in production.
Jamie, let's go on to the next question.
Sure. Craig, this is back to you again.
I'm ready.
How do you see the advent of AI and advanced technology impacting the workforce in the agricultural sector, particularly in the regional context?
Well, to elaborate on what I just said, we're going to be deploying robotics, and we're not just going to be. We're deploying robotics in production. We'll be deploying robotics in processing. Most of the things that are repetitive activities in ag-related industries, we will be automating in that manner. It doesn't mean that we're going to need any fewer folks in this industry to help us get the job done. It just means we're going to be able to do it safer and smarter, I hope. And again, to that end, what we really are looking for is a way to enable the people in the ag industry, which many of them are rural, and bring technology to them. Maybe the ChatGPT digital human might be a really effective way to do this. I hadn't figured out how to use a digital human out there in the field yet, but the promise for deploying AI or leveraging it in a way that's going to enable this community of folks in ag is a tremendous promise. And people here at the IO are going to be critical for us in helping to make that happen.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for being here. This is really important discussion we're having for our community. So Rich, back to you. Let's talk about how AI is going to promote regional economic development and resilience.
I think the biggest way that this can have an impact is being prepared for it. I think there's a huge differentiator, and it's why there's so much focus between, with our partnership with the other agencies on driving literacy now. I think there's going to be fundamental changes in the workforce, not in 10 years, in 5, right? So the faster that we're focused on that and the more efficient we are at taking our refugee population and retraining and driving digital literacy to not just our children, because AI is doing that, Region 16 is doing that, but our working adults and creating that workforce. I think the bigger impact, the more we can take advantage of this shift. These big shifts always come with opportunity. So I think that's one way. And you touched on some of it, the fact that it's rolling out to agriculture already is going to have a fundamental impact. The work that they're doing at the range to embrace these changes and become not just an innovative city, but an innovative region in how we approach all of these industries. And then the work that Todd's doing here in Innovation Outpost and pulling these groups together to focus on, okay, great, there's a shift coming. How do we prepare for it in our specific industries so that we're ahead of the curve? That gives us competitive advantage as a region. And I'll say just that level of partnership, it's fascinating. As we went through the whole broadband project, and I talked to cities all over the country about what we were doing with broadband and digital literacy, and it wasn't about technology. They didn't care about what they really cared about is how in the world did you get education, government, nonprofit, all in the same room talking to each other more than once? Yep. That's kind of like our superpower here. And I think that's no different when it comes to AI. Working together across sectors and industries is how we're going to differentiate ourselves in AI and then really just in any other way.
And we'll be resilient the way we always are in this area.
Exactly, because we have to be.
Michael, how is AI currently being applied in your role as in the K-12 education sector, and what potential do you see for generative AI and personalizing learning experiences?
Sure. So on to the first part of the question is we're doing as much as possible with AI now. So we're developing products. Those are being built. I used to say mobile first. Now I'm saying AI first. We're thinking about AI as we develop and what can it do to automate processes and make things easier. Just like one of the products is a contract management system. Before you had to build that as an individual by step. Now we just tell the system what we want to do. It builds the contract and it's ready to go. So that's how we're kind of structuring through AI as a service center and trying to build tools that can be used in education. The second part of that question was reminding how it's going to be used in education.
Yes. No. What potential do you see for generative AI in personalized learning experiences?
So that's one of the things I'm really passionate about, because when I look at a classroom today and I kind of vision with AI, I look at an environment that looks different than what it looks like today. And I'm going to stop there for a second because I want to tell a 2-second story. Because if you look at 2006, this amazing phone was on the market. This thing was revolutionary and brand new. It had a little ball in the middle of it you can spin around. It had an on-screen keyboard. And then it wasn't months later, and this new thing called an iPhone came out. And Mike Lazardis, the owner of BlackBerry, looked at the new iPhone and said, "This thing is useless. It's completely going to fail. Why would anybody want an on-screen keyboard?" And by the way, the QWERTY keyboard was the best thing and the highest trending thing in innovation in 2006. We know how that ended for BlackBerry. Bringing that back to education, it's really important for as a service center, as educators, that we start thinking right now through educational methodologies, because when we get to a place where we can utilize the tool, but we're not ready for it, we're going to find ourselves 5 or 10 years behind, and the people that are going to suffer are going to be the kids we serve. The environment I can see happening is, where the BlackBerry of the education is teachers at the front of the room using that innovative new Promethean or Smartboard and spending 45 minutes lecturing students. That's the BlackBerry. But the iPhone of the modern age with innovation and with AI is get away from the front of the room. Teachers now interacting, AI plus human, teachers interacting with pods of kids, individual kids, personalized education. And with the kids in the room that are not getting the personalized teacher instruction, the teacher's already preset or somehow it's pre-learned the lesson for that day. And now the student can autonomously or in small groups work with the AI as they need questions answered or as they need to process through what that task for the day. The second part of that that's just, I think, incredible is the idea that you can have multilingual students in that classroom. And so rather than students being left behind because we're not facilitating their educational needs because we're missing an education or a lingual component, that student could have a pair of headphones, hear the teacher in real time, maybe work with the AI in their own language, and then we can catch the language up as needed, but they're still getting the core education and they're still being able to work and collaborate with their peers, which I think is super essential. And the third component is when kids go home, it's really easy to say, hey, go home and do your homework. But we don't know what these home lives are like. And I know more than most because I see it every day in school districts across the Panhandle, whether it be, higher socioeconomic classes or whether it be lower socioeconomic classes. We have communities that are very much struggling economically and equitably. So if you get a kid, and assuming they have equitable access to broadband, internet, and things like that, they can go home and it could be 10 o'clock at night. They may have a tough home environment, but the first time they get to even look at their homework is 10, 11 o'clock. And they can't call a teacher. They can't call a friend. Their parents have no clue what's going on. No offense to your parents. But the truth is, now the student can get on an AI. The AI knows the lesson, knows the homework, can walk them through the process. And are we going to have challenges with that? We are. But that's where our educators have to step up and look at that from a perspective of, we're going to deal with the challenges of AI, but we're going to make the education better.
And that is indeed what we've done. I've been an educator for over 30 years, and really, the classroom is just a lively place. There's such energy because of technology. Okay, Brad, back to you. So let's talk about how AI is influencing regional economic growth and stability, particularly in the banking sector. You kind of touched on it a little earlier.
Yeah, can I just ditto on? I don't.
Questions or something?
Sorry. Again, I think it's taking advantage of the opportunity it presents. like one of the common ChatGPT entries is teach me 20% of this topic that will give me 80% of the knowledge I need. Kind of creating those customized lesson plans, which I guess applies to students can do that too. I also look at the upskilling, how the workforce can look at that. What's that next role I want? And instead of having to go out necessarily and find, you should still do this. Go find a mentor, somebody who has that position, and talk to them. But you can. I already know this, but I don't know this, and you can ask it to build me a personalized lesson plan of what do I need to learn, and over the next 30 days, you can provide your own timeline. So I think that personalization of is going to be a big opportunity. To look at that next opportunity for you from a career perspective, a personal goal. I want to learn how to surf. I mean, you can watch YouTube videos, but then how do you find the right ones? And I think these tools can help you hone in on go to minute 3, 2 seconds, and watch from there for the next 5, and then switch to this one. And then so I think that personalization and that fast assimilation of data and providing it back to you is just a massive opportunity. I used to say my main superpower was Google. So I feel like I'm going to be displaced now because now everybody can do what I used to be able to do. And so I'm looking at how do I use this tool so that I can stay at least where I was before. So
is our superpower AI? Maybe so. Maybe so. Okay, Jamie.
All right, final group question. Given the influence of AI on each of your sectors, how can collaboration between your industries be fostered to maximize the benefits of AI for the regional economy and society?
Oh, sure. Well, and I hit on this earlier. Just think about digital human, right? When a citizen, a resident has a question, it so often crosses sectors. So making, to your point, I thought Google was the coolest thing ever. It made knowledge so accessible, but it's nothing. I went to a doctor's appointment last week. I'm running a medical AI on my home PC. Who would have thought that day would come? So when the doctor started talking about a condition, I started asking him questions he didn't understand. He was like, what do you do? Are you a doctor? And I'm like, no, I have AI. And you could see the panic cross his face, like, oh my gosh, I thought WebMD was bad. This is horrible. That knowledge is so readily accessible. I think there is an opportunity through things like digital human to consolidate even our knowledge of how we see the region, and how we can work together. Because I have resources as government that Carolee's not going to have as nonprofit, and vice versa, or Michael. But by getting in the same room and now thinking about, okay, here's the knowledge that this new technology is bringing us. What can we, within reason and obviously within boundaries, how can we share that knowledge to be more effective as a team to drive the entire region forward?
Just to augment that, the idea of upskilling, when we talk about even kids, like if a kid's doing differential equations, I don't remember differential equations, but having AI as a parent, I get better. I can grow a skill set I never had to increase my family's income better. Maybe working with the city or working with local governments, education. You can utilize these components as a collaborative growth to grow our skill set across a whole region and hopefully keep the jobs here. So as we train kids or as we train adults, the idea is we want to keep people here, we want to keep jobs here and grow our local economies.
So we have just a few minutes. Who in the audience has a question? Okay.
Hi, Carolee with the Amarillo Area Foundation. I'm hearing a lot about, and my background is in HR, so working with the humans, and and we're hearing a lot about advanced productivity and being able to get more time into your day. Do you see this, though, actually allowing us to reclaim leisure time again in our society? Is that do you think that will ever enter part of the conversation? Because as a person who takes care of humans at work every day, my concern is we'll all become rich and we'll all just keep working harder and harder. Do you see there being room for this to actually create more of a leisure opportunity for our staffs?
I have an opinion about this, so I'm just going to throw it out there. when, like I said, it's pretty long. So when, PCs started coming along, there was kind of the same promise, kids, is, oh, we got the PCs, now we can get all this stuff done, we'll have a lot more time. What really happened? I'll tell you what happened. We had less time because we were expected to do more. Is that going to happen with generative AI? It's a powerful tool. I'd like to hope that the lessons of the PC would be learned, since we learned them hard, and that we would shift our cultural bias a little more toward quality of life and take advantage of what's going to be possible with this new set of tools and new set of knowledge to actually put it to work in the service of ourselves. That's editorial comment.
Too.
Yes, my children always tell me, work-life balance, Mom, work-life balance. Okay, someone else. Austin's coming by.
So I appreciate that honest response there. So I'm going to ask you another question kind of leading to that. I'm with the Golden Spread Electric Cooperative. So, we talked about the PC coming in. You talked about, how it's actually caused more work for all of us. They want it today or yesterday. I'm worried about the relational effects to individuals. Today, if you go into a restaurant, you see everyone with a cell phone in their hand, an iPhone in their hand, and they're not speaking to each other. Today, if you turn to the youth, you talked about education and getting them to get excited. But relationally, what do you see the issues that are coming, that are there, that we're going to address as parents, where we cannot communicate with our children or they can't communicate with us because they're relating to AI more than they are to each other or to their parents?
I think it's a very fair question, and I think it's a valid question because you're going to see some of that. Even like with video games, they've already started integrating full ChatGPT 4 into video games, where when you interact with the models on the screen, it feels like you're interacting with another human player across the world. So whereas today you're interacting digitally with these people, you may not be interacting with a human at all. It may be just you and a bunch of AI, and that is concerning, I think. So I think there's going to take some maturity, some intentionality on our part, on parents' parts, on education's part. We really have to look at this from a community method to say, this is a good thing, it's going to help us. But just like the time issue, if we don't do this in a way that fosters communication between people, we may inadvertently see some of it slip. One of the ways I've seen that happen in fourth grade, my mom's actually a teacher in New York, and she used AI in her fourth grade classroom. She had to generate a story about her class and the two co-teachers. But then she had the students collaborate together and discuss that story and talk about what was good, what was bad, how would they pick it apart, how would they write their own story, so that they were still keeping that human component. But on my side, to answer that question, number one, we have to get trained teachers on how to teach with AI, and part of that structure is to instruct teachers on how to utilize it in a way that doesn't slip away the human component, but really heavily enforce the human component. Because you're right, if we don't, I think that it could harm society in a way that would be unintentional.
And they're actually already seeing that in some countries. So it's actually a trend, a very popular thing in Japan right now, where men are dating language models, because those language models are tuned to tell you what you want to hear. They learn you, and then they just tell you everything you want to hear every time you talk to it, right? And that's addictive. I think it makes, we always, in my house, my kids are grown, so it doesn't matter. They do what they want. But when they were growing up, it makes the screen time even more important. It does make it important to put the screens down and talk to another human being and frame for them an understanding that this is not a sentient being, it's a tool, right? Or as I said, it's both things. It's a powerful tool, and it can go both ways.
Just 2-second comment on that too, as he was talking. I'm not a mental health professional by any means. Probably need mental health, but I'm not one. The one thing that I think could be very, very beneficial is thinking through the component of human-to-human interaction, because there is something about humans interacting together that decreases depression. I think that's a component we're going to have to think about as we go through this process, because we don't want a society where there's less and less human interaction, because even though things are more efficient, are faster and easier, we don't want to move into a place where people are struggling more because they don't know why, and the reason why is because they're not interacting with each other.
But on the positive side of that, as I've worked broadband, I have been able to use it to do just the opposite. So I have a message I want to deliver, but I'm not familiar with your culture. I've gone to ChatGPT and said, hey, I'm meeting with this community. Here's the message that I want to deliver. Please rephrase my message in a voice that is culturally appropriate. And it's been incredibly helpful to give me insight on how to communicate with cultures I may not be familiar with.
Wow, great questions from our audience. Please help me in thanking our tremendous team. Back to you, Tom.
Thanks, Edie, Jamie, and thanks to Michael. I'll start with you instead of forgetting you this time. Rich, Brad, and Craig, thanks so much for taking the time and all of your insights. Thanks for sharing those with the group. I want to come back to Carolee and the question that came up around the last couple of questions that were asked. When we kicked off yesterday, we talked a little bit about that. I believe it's what makes the future of work uniquely human and human uniquely, meaning that there will certainly be times where I want to leverage AI to get more productivity because I'm up against some tight deadline or whatever the case may be. But generally speaking, I've already made the decision that given the gift of time, our most valuable asset individually, I need to, and again, as I said yesterday, I don't know that I have the skills to do this right now, the human skills, but I need to shift some of that to rebuilding friendships that I value in my life and maintaining the personal relationships that I have with my wife and my kids, because, you know, I'm on the road 30 plus weeks a year. And spending more meaningful time in some sort of contemplative practice or prayer or restoring faith or whatever the case may be, which I think we all will have to make individual decisions, and organizations will make some decisions about how much productivity gain they're demanding because of this. And then we have to make individual decisions as to whether or not we're part of those organizations. And I think those are profound questions that we have to ask ourselves and have an honest conversation with ChatGPT when nobody else is around and figure out what we should do about it. So I would like to, again, say thank you. And I want to jump right into the framework exercise. We have Mitch's barbecue outside, and knowing that some of you will want to get home, I'm happy to have you take some of that home with you. But would also encourage you to stick around after 6 o'clock and do some networking in the Commons area. We don't offer bourbon tonight, but Reed Beverage is sponsoring the happy hour tonight, so I think we're calling it after party. So we've got the normal accoutrement in terms of beverages for everybody, and then Mitch's Barbecue's truck is outside and ready to serve us as well. But if we can, without taking a break, you guys are free to go. And Brad, enjoy Cancun. Thanks for coming in today. Appreciate it. I would like to jump right into this frameworks exercise, and we'll talk tomorrow about a specific one having to do with storytelling. But this is page 2 and 3 in the worksheets. And incidentally, if anybody's looking for worksheets around asking GPT to be your prompt engineer or your coach, I've got 30 extra sheets up here that you can just come and grab one, or I'll put it on the AEDC table and you can just come by and grab one on your way out. They're right here. So when I did can I do this? Think it'll work? So I was just in my office and ran through this exercise. Did it a little differently than what the script called for, but that's because I played around with frameworks a little bit. and frameworks in GPT a little bit. So, so you can see I ask nicely, right? I would appreciate it if you could, because, this is your very talented, brilliant assistant. And so you might work for your assistant one day. And so I'm just having a normal conversation saying, could you play the role of an expert business advisor who focuses on applying strategic business frameworks to nonprofits, et cetera, et cetera. And then I sometimes ask the question, like, do you understand what I just asked for? Because that tells GPT to clarify what I asked for, okay? And then it's nice to have that, like, imagine being able to do that at the beginning of every conversation in real life, where you could say, here's this little piece, are we starting off this conversation in an aligned way? And so GPT confirms that it knows, or he or she, I'm not sure, but it knows what I'm looking for, and then I say, could you please provide me? Now, page 3 of your packet on the table has some frameworks that were listed. These are different. I said, sure, could you please provide me with a list of 20 strategic frameworks in which you have the highest level of expertise? And if possible, please group these frameworks by category, okay? And so it did that. And it gave me 20 frameworks in different categories to include design thinking, balanced scorecard from a performance management perspective, McKinsey's 7 S's, and so forth. Now, I'm not all that familiar with McKinsey's 7 S's, so I might say something like, I'd like to explore the McKinsey 7S framework. Could you explain that further to me? Okay, and then it will give me, and I'd invite you to do the same as you dive in here for 15 or 20 minutes. It will explain to me in detail, and if it's not a great enough detail, you can ask it to go further, right? But it will explain to me the 7 S's. And then I would ask it to walk me through the framework as my expert advisor, and to ask me questions about my business that would help to essentially populate the framework. So every time I think about a framework, with 7 S's, I'm picturing 7 boxes. They're labeled accordingly. And now it's asking me questions about the business, like I'm sitting across the table from an expert advisor. Okay? So you can pick one from your sheet. You can start where I started, to just say, throw me 6 frameworks related to accounting practices, or 8 frameworks related to HR, or whatever the case may be. And then once you've got those frameworks, you can, or you select one from page 3, you can really dive in and say, can you explain this to me? And then you can just have a conversation back and forth, and let's see where you get in the next 15 or 20 minutes. But this is combining known, well-adopted business frameworks, strategic frameworks, with AI as your coach. There's one other piece that I would add to this, just as context of ways I've used this tool. One of the frameworks that may or may not be on your sheet is Michael Porter's 5 Forces, which speaks towards competitive influences in terms of your business and what's going on in the region, new entrants into the marketplace, new industries spinning up, et cetera. That's a well-known, Porter is Harvard, and it's an HBS model. What I've done in the past in the Panhandle is I've said, I would like to adapt the 5 Forces model for specifically for talent attraction, development, and retention. So when we think about competitive influences, what am I competing for? Well, I'm competing for people. And so I would like to think about those 5 forces, or the 7 S's, in a specific context. And what it did was it said, great, here's 5 forces, but applied in a different way. Let's change these terms so they make sense in the context that you're looking for, which is related to talent instead of competitive influence in terms of business growth. Okay? So you could also do that. You can adapt frameworks. You can build your own frameworks using this tool and just continue to refine. And this, to me, I said yesterday, and then we started with brainstorming today. I believe this changes brainstorming forever, because we don't need to sit in a room with sticky notes in front of us, throwing a bunch of stuff up on a whiteboard. We can start with ideas or adaptations to frameworks and work our way through those frameworks collaboratively to get to the place where we need to a lot faster. Okay? So just spend 15 minutes or so. I'll go make sure the brisket is ready, and we'll see you out in the commons area. And again, welcome you to take some home with you, but also we'd love for you to stick around because we've got a lot of beer to get rid of too. So, all right, thanks.
you.